My name is James, I'm a personal trainer from empoweringpt.co.uk, and today I'm going to be concluding my series on isometrics. So today I'm going to be covering flexing or posing as a method of isotension. Now typically when people refer to isotension, they specifically mean flexing or posing. However, this is a generical term that is essentially the same as isometrics. It's just a slightly different word. So just like the other methods of isometrics, what you'll find is that through doing the posing and the flexing, you'll actually increase the mind-muscle connection and you'll be able to develop your resting tension of a muscle. So naturally, you'll be able to walk around and your muscles will look more toned and defined because they'll be able to pop out a little bit more without having to flex. So you know when you look at somebody and you think that they're tensing, but they're actually not, they're being quite casual, they're moving their arms around, but they look like they're really squeezing. That's because they have a higher resting tension. Of course, one of the main reasons people use isotension and the flexing method is because they're going into competitions. So if you're doing men, women's physique competitions, then this is something that the athletes tend to use to prepare themselves for the competition. So what they'll do is they'll practice their different poses so that they can increase the amount of tension that they'll develop when they're contracting these muscles on stage. Therefore, it helps them with their performance and their overall look. It also means that they're going to look less fatigued, which will help them on stage. So the great thing about this method is that you can either use it on its own or you can combine that and superset it with a specific exercise. So if you're combining it with an exercise, you'll be wanting to target the same muscle. So for example, if you're doing your lat, so you're doing say a straight arm pull down, then what you would do is after that set, you would get your arms out like this and you would squeeze pulling down as hard as you can, focusing on that flexion of the lats right here. So squeezing as hard as you possibly can, contracting it consciously, focusing on every single bit of that contraction, squeezing, and then relaxing. Okay, so you're going to do that for about 6 to 10 seconds, depending on your level of endurance. Now just bear in mind, if you're doing this during your rest period, it's going to be hard work. If you've already worked your lats when you're doing that, then let's face it, you're going to be fatigued, at least you should be. So doing this is going to fatigue you even more, making the next set harder because you've got more time under tension in total. Now if you do 10 seconds of each, during say a 30-second to a minute rest, that's 30 seconds of extra time under tension. And if you're doing, let's say, 10 reps, that's going to take about nearly a minute to perform. It definitely adds up. So instead of doing 3 or 4 sets for about 4 minutes, you're going to be having about 4.5, 5 minutes worth of tension. So you can see where this starts to build up. So another thing you can do is say if you're doing bicep curls, you can do whatever curl you're doing, whether it be drag or to the front, a waiter curl even, when you're bringing it straight up. You would then squeeze, and you take this point here and you squeeze as hard as you can. Typically you want to get to the point where you're going to have the most amount of flexion, where you can contract the hardest. So if I come down here, I'm not going to be able to contract as hard as if I bring it right up to here. So experiment with the different positions, see what's comfortable for you. But if you are going on stage, then obviously you want to be combining this with the poses that you're going to be using. So if you're bringing your arms up to the front, then you're going to be wanting to hold that position there, as it's going to be very different is if I'm posing here. Same principle, if you're coming up to the side here, you're going to be wanting to mimic those positions, just so it's a little bit more realistic and your body understands what you're doing. And that way you get stronger contraction. So another example is if you're doing press-ups or bench press, you can easily jump off then and then focus on squeezing your chest as hard as you can. So you want to focus on pushing your hands forwards and in. So using both functions of the chest. So I'm pushing forwards, squeezing as hard as I possibly can, focusing on the contraction of the chest, and then relax, okay? One thing you can do with each of these exercises is you can target one side specifically. So if I'm squeezing my chest here as hard as I can use my other hand to check to see if I'm squeezing it hard enough. You can check the amount of tension that you've got with this. Okay, let's say I'm stronger on my right side than my left, okay, which most people are, and they're going to have a stronger mind muscle connection on their right in compared to their left. Okay, if I squeeze on my right, okay, that might be nice and solid and strong, but then if I do it on my left, it feels weaker, not as hard. It won't feel like I'm contracting as hard. You'll also feel that you're probably not contracting it as much as you feel like you could. If you compare the two contractions, you feel like this one's nice and strong. You can really focus on almost every single muscle fiber squeezing. But then on the left, it's kind of a little bit wobbly. It doesn't feel as full. It doesn't feel that you're contracting the whole muscle. It just feels like there's this minor contraction, really. And this is where it will help. So if you're focusing on one side at a time, then you can help to develop that. So hold it for a little bit longer on the left side in comparison to the right to build it up. Or at least just use this in general just to help match the two. What you don't want, especially if you're going on stage, is for one side to look uneven in comparison to the other. So make sure to keep your performance at the same level. So if you're doing this as a finisher, it works absolutely fine. It's a great way to finish off your exercises. So if you've done, say, a chest day, you can use that example again. If you've done back day, you can squeeze behind you. You can adapt it to you. You know, if you're doing legs, you can focus on that clench. So like I said, you want to be holding this between 6 to 10 seconds. You're not going to be holding it for a really long time. If you're going on stage and you think that you're going to need more, then you can focus on the endurance of this and you can start to increase it. But if you're doing it between sets of exercises, really you don't want to be doing any more than 10 seconds. Otherwise, you're going to start limiting the performance of your sets. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for putting up with my rambling through this series. Hopefully you've enjoyed it all. If you've got any questions about isometrics, isotension, or any of the examples that I've given you, then feel free to leave a comment down below. For more videos like this, you can subscribe to me to YouTube. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'll see you soon.